Hello, and welcome to 5 for Friday for this Friday, July 28th, 2023. These weekly videos are for you, small business owners and solopreneurs who don't have time to keep up with the news, but know they should. Let me do the reading for you and share 5 topics from the news that indicate signals of change that business owners like you should be aware of. You just need the 5 minutes or so to watch the video to be caught up on news that could affect you or entertain you. All right, are you ready to get started with this week's topics? Then let's get going. We'll start with topic number 1, Elon Musk. Yes, I'm sure you already know he's been in the news for rebranding Twitter as X. Brilliant. Then he stole, transferred, evicted the owner of @X on Twitter, X, and took it for his own rather than purchasing the handle, as has been the norm. The new X brand is all part of his master X plan to develop the one app, everything app that we can't live without. Apparently. Will he succeed? Many doubt it. And you can see more about this in the newsletter if you subscribe. In other Elon news, Tesla was pleased to announce an increase in earnings in the second quarter, but some of Mr. Musk's comments on the earnings call were a bit odd. And it also sounds like he's still having trouble getting his elusive Cybertruck ready for mass manufacturing. Love him or hate him, he's certainly newsworthy and involved in a great many ventures. All right, moving on to story number 2, AI developments. I bet you're thinking, Kelly, AI was a topic last week and maybe the week before, and before that, we get it already. But I'm here to tell you that you need to keep paying attention to this world that continues to change and evolve because you never know what new AI topic might be the one that is most relevant to you and your business. This week, we're seeing that the huge growth for AI is requiring a massive increase in data centers to handle all that data. And they're just plain running out of room on the coasts near all the tech hubs. So they're starting to look to farmland in the middle of the country to turn agriculture farms into data farms. The jury's still out on whether that helps those communities or not. AI is being used to control drones in the war in Ukraine, write articles for news journals, if the journals will just buy the Google-owned tool, and even help us determine what is human and what is AI with an eyeball-scanning crypto startup. I dare you to explain that concept to your bank and ask for funding. A few more topics in the newsletter, but you get the gist. AI all the time for some folks, and maybe some of the time for you? Think about it. And with that, let's move on to story number 3. It's still hot out there. Do you need more than that? All right, we are setting records for heat. Climate change is definitely to blame. The ocean in Florida is way too hot, especially for coral. The sea ice in Antarctica isn't gaining this winter there, and this is all an issue that perhaps people are finally starting to take seriously. At least, I sure hope so. And moving on to story number 2. How was your day? Let's talk about different ways we work, based on several recent studies. For example, it turns out that remote workers use their breaks from the desk to exercise, run errands, do chores, or spend time with family. Those in the office use their breaks to scroll the internet or play a game on their phone, not to interact with their coworkers. Some people work for companies with questionable ethics, like those who hired contractors in Kenya to edit out all the bad stuff, violence, sexual abuse, and worse, from the internet so that ChatGPT didn't think that was something worth mentioning when we ask it questions. Good idea, but a tough job with some serious mental health ramifications for those contractors. Back in the US, snooty PhD economists working for Ivy League schools have been enjoying an anonymous forum called Economics Job Market Rumors that is just full of racist and sexist posts from rich white men who are now worried that technology might reveal their identities. Maybe don't post stuff like that about your coworkers then, And speaking of rich white men, there's been a huge increase in the demand for mental health services among Wall Street traders, bankers, and lawyers who deal with stress through drugs and alcohol. The topic of addiction, or even just anxiety and depression, is apparently taboo in this world, so all this therapy is on the down low. Check out the newsletter for a bit more if you subscribe, including a crazy book recommendation about bad jobs. I hope your job is better than these examples. All right, let's move on to our final story, number 5, too much tech. To start, smart TV company Roku is working to expand its smart TV business to smart homes in order to increase their ARPU, that is, average revenue per user. But Gen Z and millennials are increasingly worried about smart home devices being hacked and would like to see more of an emphasis on cybersecurity. Baby boomers apparently are less concerned. However, we are all getting sick of the infotainment systems in our cars that seem to make everything more complicated than back when we just had dials and buttons to control things. So maybe we'll be happy to move to a self-driving car? But those self-driving cars still have some learning to do. First off, it turns out that you can deactivate a self-driving car by setting a traffic cone on its hood. The car doesn't know what to do with that data and just shuts down. Or you can do what Halo Car is doing with its rental car business in Vegas. Have cars drive to their rental customers remotely. Super cool. But have a second car with the driver following behind just in case. Sounds expensive. Again, a bit more in the newsletter, but you get the idea. Tech is great until it's not. So will we continue to accept our loss of privacy and let the bots take over? Or will we revolt and try to live off the grid? What are your thoughts? 2 bonus stories this week with more details in the newsletter, but here are the quick summaries. Story number 1, Crypto Bro SBF of the failed FTX, which we've discussed a lot in the past, was planning for the end of civilization by trying to buy an island nation to get away from, the robot apocalypse he's helping create in Silicon Valley? Story number 2, can you guess the top trending job among 20 and 30-somethings in China where the unemployment rate and the burnout rate are both very high? You'll never guess. The top trending job is full-time child, meaning your parents hire you to spend time with them. That is sad in so many ways. And with that, thanks for joining me with this week's Fiverr Friday. If you want to get all the links, all the resources, my full take on these topics, then be sure to check out my subscription newsletter that gives you everything in the video and more. And as always, I hope you'll sign up to receive these videos directly from me or subscribe on YouTube so you can continue to hear about these signals of change that could impact your small business. Happy Friday.